What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of This is the World Christian Podcast. I am your host, Michelle. This is your other host, Jasmynne. Thank you for joining us today for another episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss when we drop a video. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into our very first topic of the day. All right, so for those that don't know, last week the Supreme Court ended up passing a lot of stuff, right? One of the things we're going to be talking about today is them passing protections for religious freedom for workers here in America, as well as the Colorado website designer or graphic designer also winning her case to protect her religious freedoms. So just to go ahead and jump right onto it, this is from Time Magazine. As you guys can see, it says employers will have to meet a higher standard to deny religious accommodations in the workplace. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously last Thursday. The court clarified a previous legal standard that only required employers to demonstrate a de minimis, which is a minimal cost, to deny a worker's request for religious accommodation. It now says that employers must show that the burden of granting an accommodation has substantial increased costs in relation to the conduct of its particular business. So when Groff versus DeJoy rose to the Supreme Court after a Christian former postal worker living in rural southeast Pennsylvania sued the post office. Groff argued that his job did not allow him to observe Sabbath on Sundays and punished him when he did not work those days. Now it's just observance of the Sabbath that will be affected by the Supreme Court's ruling, but all sorts of religious accommodations tied to scheduling, dress, and even abortion. That can include the ability for a Muslim woman to wear a hijab or a Christian person to attend Sunday church, or an employee's decision to refuse vaccinations on religious grounds. So honestly, I like that this passed. I do have a friend when I went to church with them, this probably back in like October or something. I remember she was telling me her husband at the time, he had to actually use a vacation day to go to church because they wouldn't accept his religious grounds to take off no matter what he did. He was like, I could work the shift before this. I could work the shift after this. I just can't, work during the church time. They wouldn't work with him, period. Now it seems like the employer, they're going to have to accommodate that moving forward, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, honestly, it is a huge win for the United States. I think that sometimes the dominant religion of the United States right now is secularism, and it wins out over everything. And so there is, or for a long time, there hasn't been a respect of things that fall outside of secularism. So your religion must take a back seat to whatever the dominant culture says. So in this case, respecting the Sabbath. In other cases, it's the LGBTQ stuff. Your religious freedom hasn't mattered until apparently now. So I think it's a major win.
Yeah, I do too. Especially they mentioned the vaccine in the article. And because I remember the last job I had was during the time when COVID first started. And I remember a bunch of people that weren't religious, but even if they didn't want to take it, they were like, I'm just going to do religious exemptions. And I remember a bunch of jobs just denying it like crazy. And it's like, you can't deny that if it goes against someone's religion to get this vaccine. So now it seems like you really got to fight if you want to deny these rights now to religious people.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be, honestly. Yeah. Especially when it came to the vaccine situation, like you brought up. That was genuinely insane. And that just shows that part of this, everyone at their core, everyone is religious, whether they want to admit that or not, whether they recognize that as a reality or not. So we all have religious undertones. Religion is what guides our morality. So if your religion is the state, you worship the state, what they say goes. You worship yourself, what you say go, and you don't submit to anything else. This is why there's conflicts, because you no longer respect what someone else, when someone says, I want to respect the Sabbath, that is a serious religious freedom that they have. That is a serious religious ritual that they hold very near and dear to their person. It's who they are. It's what they do. But like I said, the dominant religion is secularism, and there's always going to be a conflict there. And so it's great to see that the United States, at least in the Supreme Court, finally acknowledges what should have been true all along.
And then this actually happened because that was the first story was from last Thursday. This is from last Friday. So this is the Colorado woman right here in this video. She would make wedding websites, and apparently this was like months ago. A gay couple was like, "Can you make our wedding website?" And she was just like, "Sorry, I can't help you. That goes against my religious beliefs. You would have to find somebody else to do this." And instead of them just being like, "Oh, okay, whatever," and giving their money to somebody that would want to work with them, they're like, "Oh, we're going to sue you." They kind of did to her what they did to the baker. I think he's from Colorado too, where they just kept messing with that baker that didn't want to make cakes for gay couples because it also went against his religious beliefs. So on Friday, the United States Supreme Court ruled that Colorado cannot force the graphic designer to create art that violates her religious beliefs. So the woman who believes that marriage should be between a man and a woman wants to create wedding websites, but under Colorado's discrimination laws, if she were to create such wedding websites, she would be compelled to do so for same-sex weddings. She didn't want to do that. They sued her. And on Friday, the court decided that the government cannot interfere with her religious beliefs, and the vote was 6-3. So I'll take that as a win too. I thought that was awesome when I saw this story.
Yeah, it's awesome, especially because for so long now, it has been the norm to push ideology on someone. And so especially with this whole culture of like, respect the LGBTQ, celebrate the LGBTQ, and it's like, actually some of us really have deep-seated issues with that ideology, but it doesn't matter because the dominant religion of this country says that your religious belief is discriminating. And so it's great to see this. I hope that it continues because sometimes the law over time will shape the morality of the citizens. You know, when something's legally okay, then it starts to become okay morally. And sometimes when something is legally not okay, it shapes people's perception of what's right and wrong. And we can see this in the abortion argument as well. Because it's been legal for so long, now when we have an overturning of legal precedent in the Supreme Court, now the citizenry has adopted the morality that has been set by the legal side. So it's great to utilize the political power that we have when we have it. And that just goes to show Christians that your vote really does matter.
Yeah.
This would not have been possible had it not been for Trump's appointments of these justices.
Yeah. That's because that's what a lot of liberals are mad about, and they're trying to we need to overturn that and get our own people in there. Because I don't know if you saw this after this story came out. I saw a lot of liberals that were kind of just like, oh, so I could just start putting these signs on my place of business now. And they were putting up signs that were like, if you're a Trump supporter, I don't want your business. It was like some crazy stuff. And they were like, or if you're Christian or something. And it's like, I mean, that's cool. Like, we don't have an issue. I don't want to support something that doesn't want my money. So that's not going to bother me. Like, good luck with your business at the end of the day. But like, I just won't shop with you or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, it's exactly the point. You as a business owner have the right to discriminate against me as a Christian or me as a pro-lifer or whatever it is. Yeah. That's cool. I actually, you know what? Do you? I'll put my money elsewhere. I'm happy to shop somewhere else.
I know that. Like, they were making a point. It's like, let's see how you guys feel about it. It's like, I don't feel anyways about it. I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, I respect your right to hate on me. It's fine.
Yeah, that's one thing I never understood. Like, when they were really going after that baker and then they went after the website designer, I was, as us being minorities, if I ever walked into a place and they were just like, I'm not gonna serve you because the color of your skin. I'd be like, all right, bet. I'm not gonna fight you for that.
Yeah, like, okay, you don't like me, whoop-de-doo.
I'm not gonna be like, no, you're gonna serve me and I'm gonna sue you. And after I win, you're gonna serve me. I could care less. I'd be like, all right, buddy, you won't be getting my money.
Right, exactly. These people are such authoritarians. It's insane. They're very communist in that way. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of just like, you do what I say or there's going to be problems. You respect my opinion only. It's like, no, no, no. That's not how that works. All right, guys, let us know in the comment section. What do you think about this? Do you love the Supreme Court's decision with everything last week? Or do you got some problems with it? Let us know in the comment section down below. And maybe we'll pick your comment to read in next week's episode. All right, guys, after the podcast, make sure you go check out Jasmynne's channel. It's called Bold Reflections YT right here on YouTube. She basically discusses topics about life, faith, and culture through a Christ-focused perspective. Everything you're getting from her here, you're going to get way more over on her channel. She's done interviews with people. It's awesome. When you get the chance, hit the link in the description box down below and go check her channel out. You will not regret it. All right, guys. So last week, you guys had a lot to say about our first topic, where we were talking about the young woman who decided to become a man and not like that she became a man. So we tried to pick the best. It was a lot of comments. So we picked the best 8, and we're going to go over them right now. So our first comment, and you know what? This ain't even from last week's video. Somebody dropped this on the podcast before that. But it's a good comment. It's a good comment. So we're going to throw it in there. But the first one is from Penelope Whistle 8360. And they say, what about people in the queer community who are Christians? Good question, Penelope. So that's not a thing. That's like somebody saying, I'm a drunk Christian or I'm a murdering Christian, right? To kind of label, using sin to label yourself. That's not a thing. Either you let that go and you work on it and you try to be the best Christian you can be, because you're never going to be perfect and nobody's going to be perfect. Jesus, the only perfect person to walk the earth. But either you're going to do that or you're going to live in the world. You can't have one foot in both. That's not a real thing. Don't let these progressive Christians confuse you out here.
Okay, so I read that differently. I read that as, what about people in the queer community who are Christians? I took that to mean like, who are y'all to be saying anything? Am I wrong on that one?
Oh, I didn't read it that way.
Because either way, I mean, it's whatever. Maybe I'm just being like overly hostile. I'm sorry.
I don't know. But didn't we do this last week? There was a I can't even speak right. There was a comment where we both read that differently too.
Well, it's the commenter's fault. Y'all should be much more clear, honestly.
All right, so now we're getting into comments from last week's actual podcast. This from 3 Poodles 321, and they said they consistently ignore the fact that XX and XY humans are different, and until you can change your genetics, you're never going to change who you intrinsically are. Facts. And until that ever happens, which it's not, if you were born a man, you are a man, right? If you were born a female, you are female. God made no mistakes at all. He made you that way for a reason. He knew you before you ever became in your mother's womb, right? It says that in the Bible. So he made you that way for a reason. There's no purpose for you to destroy your body. Like, no, I'm gonna be a man now. Then you do all that and you're like, oh man, it's not what I thought.
Yeah, and they go through medical changes. Like this person in the video that we reacted to, they had to take something to grow out their facial hair and do all that. So, and it never really occurred to me until I watched What is a Woman? And that's the documentary with Matt Walsh. And he interviewed Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you've seen it, Sang. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay. So yeah, the Jordan Peterson part, he was explaining how they used the term gender to describe temperament and personality. And because they use the word gender, they kind of like, and this is me, not Jordan Peterson, they kind of like conflate the two. And so they end up just basically saying, oh, well, you are a woman now, or you are a man now. So, of course, you can go ahead and solve your dysphoria medically. But it's all a lie, because all you're addressing is the fact that your personality or your temperament doesn't fall into a stereotype. Mm-hmm. And it's okay, because we're on a spectrum from men and women. Personality wise, you can be a feminine man and you can be a masculine woman. That doesn't change. Just like 3 Poodles 3-2-1 says, that doesn't change your chromosomes. You can't change who you intrinsically are. So yeah, that was just something I thought of with the whole temperament and the personality thing.
No, you're right, because they dropped something recently. This from like a few weeks ago, where they added more pronouns to the list, and all it sounded like was personality traits. Like some of these pronouns was like bug boy and Joey person, all these weird things. And when you read the descriptions for it, it's like person that likes bugs, person that's a fan of this YouTuber, and I'm like, that's not a gender. I don't understand why these are, because I never understood the whole pronouns thing to begin with, right? And especially as the list got longer and longer, and now it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is absolutely insane. I think they said like Facebook has maybe 60 or 70 different options. Which is, and then, yeah, and if you go to, I think it was San Francisco or San Diego, one of the two.
Yeah.
You could apply for like, I don't know, a stipend or something for being one of the, and they had like 50 or 60 different options, and they're all just made up nonsense.
And then in Canada, it's like 100 and something.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's just like, you're either a man or a woman. Pick one.
Yeah, honestly, you can't pick it. You just are.
Right? All right, so this one is from Mazroy9, and it says, why was Michelle smiling after viewing the video and so judgmental? The video of the trans woman was extremely painful. Men and women do have different brains and express themselves differently, yet women can be more brutal in relationships than men in relationships. All right, so let's break this down real quick, because you aren't the only woman with this comment. I noticed that we got a few of this, and it was only from women. First, me smiling after the video. Before we even recorded, we cracked a lot of jokes that had nothing to do with anything we talked about that day. And then even when we started recording, there was something on stream right before I played the video. It was like some toe fungus thing or something that I didn't recognize.
Oh yeah.
So I still be going off on that sometimes. So me smiling was holding back me just not trying to laugh from cracking the jokes. Now, after that, the judgmental part, I don't think I was being judgmental at all. I think I was being brutally honest and blunt. That's all that was. That young woman ruined her life. That's just all it was. Nobody in her life saved her. I don't know if anybody tried to, because we don't really know that part of the story. But we know for a fact the doctors, the therapists failed her. They all failed her. And now she's stuck in this position where, yeah, great cosplay. You look the part, but you can't act the part because you're not the part. And that's something, you have to understand. Like I said, you're not the only woman that felt this way. And I can't be mad at you for that. As a woman, we are emotional beings. So you weren't thinking logically when you saw that video. You thought with emotion. You were like, oh, that poor young woman. That's so sad. I promise you, every man I know that watched that video and every man I don't know that did reactions to that video was like, boo-hoo, suck it up. That's not how men talk. Get over it, my guy. That was their brutal thoughts on it. So once again, we're men and women differ in how we view things.
Very true. Okay. Very true. Honestly, I don't know. Yes, we were a little too silly before we started that so serious, very serious video. Look, I sympathize with the person, like I said, but honestly, I go back and forth between like, obviously this person who is expressing themselves and crying is in a lot of psychological and emotional pain, and that is worthy of a certain level of sympathy. But I also have such a problem with how they got there. Like you mentioned, everybody failed them. They made so many choices to get into this position. And they probably heard our so-called Christian propaganda or just non-leftist propaganda and dismissed it. So at some point, you kind of it kind of gets a little played out, a little tiring, and especially when you have such a domination in the culture with the rainbow flag. It's kind of like, it's kind of hard to feel sorry for people sometimes when they put themselves in this position. Yeah. So I don't know.
No, I mean, you're right, because there's other comments from guys on the same video that thought the same. Like, with some literally typing in ha 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 to the person's like, but which is, like I said, once again, this is how men and women differ, because whereas most of the comments from women were like, you should show more sympathy and be more empathetic, the guys were just like, that ain't how men acts. Like, they done messed up.
Right.
Now, the rest of this comment where it says women could be more brutal in relationships than men, I don't know where that came from, because I don't know what that had to kind of do with anything that was talked about last week.
Maybe you were being too brutal in the relationship of your reaction to this person.
Maybe I was, because I was just like, what does any of that have to do with that video? All right, this one's from Tyree. This is kind of long, so I don't know how we gonna chop this one up, but let's go through it. So Tyree got timestamps. So for the first timestamp, they said, yes, there are nations in the world where Christians are at risk for their beliefs. Oh, this is when we were talking about the underground churches in China. So I know of missionaries in Muslim countries that do the same thing and are also at risk. Their mission is going to have different parameters to the nations that tolerate the gospel. The great thing of being in China is due to the lack of morality that communism tries to force. The missions work they are doing are bringing Jesus to their neighbors. This will help remove the human god called Z from their lives, even if it's in secret. For the next timestamp, they said, God puts us in different mission fields, so we need to be bold no matter where we are at. In the States, this means the chance for not nice reactions. It's a chance to show we are followers and not admirers of Jesus of the Living Bible. In the countries that tolerate the gospel, we have to deal with different denominations and confused beliefs. Plus, if you look, church vandalism is on the rise. I've kind of been noticing that lately. Christians getting arrested for street preaching is also on the rise. That's been happening a lot in westernized countries. In Britain, you can't appear to even silently pray near their abortion centers. At the Progressive Church, they have choice sanctuaries to help women get abortions. I'm glad Tyree brought this up. So if you guys don't know, a few months ago in Britain, a woman and a pastor did get arrested for praying in their minds across the street from an abortion clinic. They weren't saying anything. They weren't holding signs. They were just across the street. They put their heads down. They were praying, and cops arrested them for silently praying, which made no sense, right? Now, apparently they beat the case, but that came like way after the fact. But just the fact that you can even get arrested for that is wild. And then the part about the Progressive Church having the choice sanctuaries to help women get abortions. I just read an article about that probably a few days ago. A pastor right here in America just got outed. He drives women to other states to get abortions, which is insane because it's like, you're supposed to be a pastor. You're not even supposed to be doing that.
That's insane.
Yeah, that is insane. I got so mad when I was reading that. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's evil. That's wicked.
That is. But you know, the Bible, how they talk about there's going to be wolf in sheep's clothing going to infiltrate the church. That's all that is. That's all that is. And they're trying to normalize it. This is why it's important you go to the right church. Because you go to the wrong one, you're going to end up at some progressive church nonsense.
I don't even think they're
follow the Bible.
Yeah, I don't think they can even be considered Christian, no matter how much they want to adopt that label.
No, you can't. You can't. They gonna fight and say they are, but you can't. There's no way.
Now they have drag queens at the pulpit now. I've seen those videos. That's wild.
I've seen those too. All right, it says, while we might not risk death, we are finding our own tide of a caricature of what people think Christianity is supposed to be. Much of this comes from TV, movies, and Christians that aren't disciplined.
Discipled, I think.
Oh, is that what that said?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I read it wrong. And Christians that aren't discipled. Okay. Another problem is Planned Parenthood is partially funded by our tax dollars, which I can't stand. I ain't even gonna lie to you. The fact that FBI arrested a Christian last September for preventing passage to a federal building. This man and his son were protesting outside of Planned Parenthood Philly, and a Planned Parenthood volunteer said something to the son. The father did assault the volunteer with a shove. The Philly court did not prosecute the case. Planned Parenthood also stated recently that virginity is a social construct due to the fact abortions are going down. I saw that. That kind of made me sick when I saw that too. Since Planned Parenthood is more funded, many women who go don't even know their options. There are many pro-life Christian groups that help the families with many things. Love Life has talked about even helping to pay rent for mothers. Love Life has also helped to set up sanctuary churches for women that have had abortions. I can't say how many know what they really do, but the stories that I have heard tell of guilt. They become more hard-hearted, and some are even afraid that there's no grace. As I said, so much misinformation is spread about options before and even after. We need to keep working where the Lord calls us.
Amen.
Amen indeed. All right, next comment comes from Supriya Conco. We're going to stop it there because it's a lot going on with your name after the Supriya. They said, I thought trans people go through therapy to make sure they are ready for a complete transition. The therapy of today is not the therapy of yesterday. So the therapy of today, you can get greenlit confirmation within like 10, 15 minutes of talking to a therapist.
Yeah, and there's two things that come to mind with that. There is a huge $sign above someone's head when they are presenting with this possible diagnosis. And the quicker you can get them through the system to make people money, the better. Then the other side of that is that we are pushing therapists, at least Canada is, and I don't know to what extent the US is, but we're pushing therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists to gender affirmation care. And therefore, it is to the point where you could lose your reputation, you could lose your practice, you could lose your license if you go against the narrative. So I don't know how far that's getting in the US, but it's trending that way for sure.
Yeah. We saw, didn't that happen to Jordan Peterson?
Yes, in Canada.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely going to make its way down here at some point, which is sad. Because therapy is already becoming a big joke, which is also very sad because I think if used properly with the right therapist, I don't think therapy's bad, but they're just the way it's painted now. Honestly, I wouldn't want to go to therapy. All right, next one is from the pretentious illiterate 5412.
I love the name.
That's why I was laughing. All right, they said the fact that women consider someone that just met in the bathroom a friend, a fact confirmed by all the women on the podcast, speaks to the depth of how little women value friendship. It is hard to take you seriously when you say stuff like, the interdimensional space wizard from my book of fables wants you to cut off the tip of your penis.
Oh my gosh.
All right, let's start from the top and we'll get to your code words for God. All right. The fact that women consider someone they just met in the bathroom a friend. I think you took that a little too seriously. So let's break this down. because you might be a guy. So I'm assuming you're a guy, so you don't understand. When I say you easily make friends with somebody you meet in the bathroom, I don't mean now we're besties. I got their number in my phone. We're about to go get some brunch. They're going to come over to my house and kick it. No, we're just friendly at that point. I think the only way I've ever seen this in real life with guys was at a sneaker convention, right? Like two guys would be like, "Oh, bro, your sneakers are so sick, bro. Yeah, oh, your fit is so fire. Oh." That is the closest I've ever seen guys doing what women do in the bathroom. All right? That's so when we say that, like at that point, you guys aren't best buddies. You ain't about to go kick it and get a beer and hang out and do whatever guys do, right? So that's all I mean. You're friendly. If we're in college and you get friendly with somebody in the bathroom, now you start seeing them around, you might point them out and be like, "Hey, girl, hey," and they might point back to you. That's as far as that goes. That's about it. So it ain't as deep as what you making it out to be to us not understanding friendship. Now to your bottom.
How little value. Hold on, I missed that part. It speaks to the depth. How little women value friendship. How dare you? Okay, I seriously value friendship. Oh my gosh. Okay,
that's why I said I'm like they didn't understand anything.
If you are not a woman, you do not understand women, and it shows.
Yeah. Once again, this goes back to the differences between men and women.
Mm-hmm. Get your XY chromosome in check.
All right, let's this bottom part here where you called God an interdimensional space wizard. You know what? I've never heard that before. I usually hear the flying spaghetti monster. So different. But just to let you know, when you're talking about this down here, the circumcision part, Christians don't do that. That's Jews. Maybe read your Bible to understand the difference, because that has nothing to do with Christians.
Yeah, I just think that just shows such a disdain for understanding the religion at all, if that's how you see it. And yeah. I have been there. I too was an atheist. I too used to call God a sky daddy and things like that.
That's the other one.
Yeah, Lord forgive me for the years I spent in spiritual darkness, but there is a God. He is the creator of the universe, and I hope, pretentious illiterate 5412, that you someday come around to know him.
Yeah, hopefully one day. I mean, they watched our podcast, so hopefully a seed was planted somewhere.
Perhaps.
I mean, they did have another comment, which was kind of wild, but I was like, yo, I can't put all your comments on here.
Keep commenting, friend.
All right, our next one is from Brid9465, and they said, I had better relationships with random women I met in club bathrooms, and now they can't even go in there anymore. It's a little laughing emoji. I think that people get so wrapped up in themselves and society, doctors, even therapists, are so toxically positive about the change that nobody is worried about helping people really dig deep about gender and what that actually means to them, how they choose to present themselves without the change, and just general expectation management. Everyone is scared of giving real information or sharing stories that don't 100% align with the change because they're scared of being canceled or offing their own businesses. This person just realized that they look and function as a man, but now their need for female bonding isn't dovetailing with the fact that men and women just do not bond the same. They, as a woman who has only ever had social experiences as a woman with making friends, now has to deal with having a hard time making friends with women and men. I mean,
very true.
That is true. I think that's something we said too, though. Like, you kind of ruined your life because you can't really connect with women anymore because you're a guy, and you can't really connect with guys because you're not a guy.
Yeah.
So you're in this weird like in between.
And that is why the toxically positive, as Brid9465 says, the toxically positive mentality that everyone around this person, well, again, we're assuming, but the culture, the doctors, all of this really didn't love you. They really didn't love you. They didn't care about you, because if they did, they would want to dig deep about what was really going on. And somebody, God, I hope somebody would have pointed them in the direction of their local church or reading a Bible or something, because that is the root of the problem, is that you don't know who you actually are in Christ.
That's why I like, I don't know if you ever watched the detransitioner stories of everything they go through as well. But it's so crazy how this community that's like, oh, we're so loving and accepting, but as soon as they detransition, they're like, you know what? I made a mistake. This isn't for me. That same community spits them right back out and now goes against them to the point where they're just like doxing them nonstop, putting them down, like protesting against them. And they're like, your story doesn't matter. It's like their story does matter because they got caught up in all of this because of y'all. And they need to tell their stories so more people don't fall down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. And it's so ugly too, because they're already in a really vulnerable state, and they are just getting completely lambasted by the so-called tolerant.
All right, our last one is from Jorge. So he says, Christianist. I've never heard of that either. But remember that Jesus was considered a radical, so it makes sense that they call us radicals. I would say that coaches and teachers abuse more children than priests do. This is why you have to pray for our priest. I pray for Pope Francis and the magisterium. At the end of the day, every priest and bishop are still human and still are capable of falling. Jesus never fails, and the church will ultimately be triumphant because Jesus has promised that he'd remain with his church even to the end of the world. So one thing he did say about the coaches and teachers, I feel like nobody ever thinks about when they be like, oh, these priests be touching little boys and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but these teachers at your public schools are just as nasty, okay?
Yes, and it's very prominent. Very prominent. I went to some random little school in the middle of a state that I will just not say. But anyway, and even that little school ended up, like, my algebra teacher, man, he got caught with his pants down, literally trying to quid pro quo with a student. So that's just in my tiny little circle of life, and you know what I mean? Like, so how bad is this problem in the schools? But we're over here like, oh, the Catholics are horrible. Actually, everyone's horrible. That's kind of the point.
Yeah. My high school was the same way. So I think it was the year or two before I went, they were on the news because I don't know what teacher got caught, but one of them got caught. And then when we went, so many teachers was doing things with students, and you would mention it to administration, but because they were already on the news, they were kind of just like they kept sweeping things under the rug. And it's like, yo, this guy just walked into the girls' locker room, girls mid-changing. Do something about that. Right? When one, like, what was it? It was my gym teacher at the time. He was well known as a pedo. None of us liked him. And they wouldn't do anything. There was a history teacher that was known. We're just like, he's sleeping with the female students. Oh, that's not happening. They swept a lot of stuff under the rug, and it was like male and female teachers was doing stuff with the students. I'm like, that's crazy just because y'all don't want to be on the news again. Our lives are at risk right now. Like, protect us.
For real. It's insane. But yeah, let's just keep pointing the finger at the Catholics all day.
Right? They're just like, oh, they're so horrible. They're going to touch all the kids. It's like they're already touching kids at the school. So
yeah.
What? Hey, this is why y'all homeschool. Y'all got to homeschool your kids.
Should really consider it.
If you're able to, do it. I promise you. That's what I'm going to do. My kid ain't going nowhere. It's like, you're going to be right here with me. Okay? We're going to have our 3-hour school day, and then I don't know what we're doing after that, but I know they ain't gonna get molested. I know that much.
Yeah, I just, with everything going on in schools right now, I don't know that public school is safe, whether it's, school shootings or pervert teachers or the agenda or lack of academic success, just all the way around. I don't see much reason for me to want to put my kids in school at this point. So I don't know.
Homeschool, you got to homeschool them.
Well, I mean, that's been the plan since before I had my first, but
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. All right, y'all. Well, that's all the comments for this week. So, as y'all know, every time we talk about something, say what you got to say, and your comment might get picked for next week's episode. Okay, so recently, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and this is in Canada, I believe. It was in Ontario. So, a Catholic school district decided that they were not going to raise the pride flag because it's a Catholic school district that they don't have to raise the pride flag. But apparently some students that went to the schools felt a way about that, and they decided to do a protest to show that they didn't understand why the school didn't want to support their LGBT whatever students, right? So in the midst of this protest, you had other high schoolers from the Catholic school that was so over it, ruined their protest. So this is just to let you guys know, not only are adults tired of this, because this isn't the first student protest where students were over the whole pride thing. This has been going on for like a minute now this year. It seems like everybody's sick of it. They're tired of it being pushed down all of our throats. They're over it. But I'm going to show you guys a clip. It's under like 2 minutes. And it's going to explain everything that's been going on in Canada with this school.
This walkout at St. Brother Andre in Markham was intended as an opportunity to support 2S LGBTQ plus students at a time where the York Catholic Board has ruled to not raise the pride flag for Pride Month.
Everyone has the right to love who they want to love.
It's weird that they're prioritizing the comfort of the parents rather than the safety of the students.
But messages like this were quickly drowned out by the noise of a rowdy crowd. Students tearing through pride posters and dancing on pride flags.
It's rude, and they're throwing water everywhere. They're looking at us. They're judging us. Shouldn't be like that. You're out for a reason.
Rambunctious teens then turned violent, throwing pride bracelets and other random objects on the road and at people.
Some kid threw something at my head, and then in response to that, everyone started cheering. There was like a group of guys, and they were more like harassing us than supporting us.
Organizers say the disruptive group also shouted anti-queer slurs.
I just wish that there was a lot more positivity and love and support right now.
Advocacy organization PFLAG, who deemed the York Catholic District School Board unsafe for 2S LGBTQ plus students, says the board needs to be held accountable for Thursday's events.
If these kids are the type of culture that is creating the culture of hate and discrimination and bigotry at York Catholic, then the Catholic School Board has an urgent need to act, and to act now.
Now, the YCDSB tells Global News that it is aware of an assault on a student that took place during that walkout here at St. Brother Andre, and that police are currently gathering video footage as part of their investigation. Brittany Rosen, Global News, Markham.
All right, so I guess my only confusion is that the kids attending the Catholic school, I don't understand why they were so confused that the Catholic school didn't want to raise the flag. It's like, you're at a Catholic school. Do you not understand the Bible? Because I'm pretty sure they have to teach you a little bit of it there.
That would be the assumption. But from what I hear, some Catholic schools are not all that discipling in their curriculum. I don't know if I worded that correctly, but I don't know. And this just shows why it's so important that parents disciple their kids.
Yeah.
Because over time, this is what we're going to see. The culture is like an ocean, and we're all swimming in it. And it's up to the parents, the churches, to be that light, to show us the truth. Mm-hmm. And that appears to not be happening when I hear some of these students discuss how they're unsafe and not supported and all of these things. All of it is nonsense.
Yeah, that threw me off too, because I'm like, what's going on in your household? Because obviously your parents are sending you to the Catholic school, but then you're obviously an LGTV student. So I don't know. I'm just confused on how I got there, because there's what do they call it? They says it's called catechism. There's no teaching or whatever going on in the household. Because I was confused about that too. I'm like, you realize you're not in public school, you're in Catholic school.
Right.
Like, it's gonna be different.
And it reminds me too of like just what we're seeing. You and I are in our 30s now, but some of the like younger generation coming up, as we've seen on the news, in culture, on social media, some of these kids are so triggered, and they have very little resilience from relatively minor things. Like, there are people getting shot up in some of these cities, but you're over here mad because somebody threw a bracelet at your head. Like, are you serious? You about to cry? Come on, man. This is crazy.
Yeah, they're soft. So when that girl was like, they threw a bracelet at my head and they was dancing on the flag, I'm like, okay. And
okay. It's kind of like, maybe I am a radical Christian, but it kind of made me a little bit happy in my heart to see somebody dancing on them flags, because to me, they are idols. They are wicked. They are a perversion of the rainbow. And it's quite beautiful to see someone desecrating such wickedness, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, y'all, let us know what you think in the comment section down below. How do you feel about the situation? Do you think they should have been allowed to do their protest? Do you agree with the students that were over it and they came in and counter protested by ruining the original protest? Just let us know what you think in the comment section down below, and we might pick your comment for next week's episode. Hey, once the podcast is over and you guys have a minute, go ahead and check out my channel. It's titled It's Your Girl Saying. Basically, I go over life topics, Christianity topics. I live stream every Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. EST. On Mondays and Tuesdays, we do what's called the Conservative Christian Show, where we go over all the topics in culture and we look at it through a Christ-focused perspective. You know, on Wednesdays and Thursdays, I have a show called Christian Game Room, where I'm playing video games, but in between segments or pausing the game or whatever, we're having talks about the Bible. We're having talks about God, right? You guys may even bring things to my attention about what's going on in certain areas of Christianity. We just have nice long discussions about all of it. And if you're into any of that, gaming, culture, Christ, all of it, make sure to check out my channel. You will not be disappointed. All right, guys, this is the last topic of the day, and it's actually a very weird one too. So the FBI groomed a disabled 16-year-old to be an ISIS terrorist. Never thought those words would come out of my mouth, but that apparently happened. They started with the kid when he was 16, and then as soon as he turned 18, they went in to bust him. But this is what's weird. They were the ones that groomed him. So I don't know. I understand it. I'm gonna play a news clip for you guys. We're gonna play about like maybe 1 or 2 minutes of it, so you can kind of see how weird this is for yourself. And I guess we'll just go from there and talk about it, because this is a very weird story.
The FBI reportedly groomed a 16-year-old with brain development issues to become a terrorist, according to New Intercept reporting. The Department of Justice arrested now 18-year-old Mateo Ventura in Massachusetts last week on, quote, allegations of providing financial support to the Islamic State group, The Intercept reports. According to The Intercept, however, the only terrorist he's accused of being in contact with was an undercover FBI agent who befriended him online when he was just 16 years old. He solicited cash donations via gift cards and directed him not to tell anyone about their online relationship.
Ventura's family has reportedly denied allegations that their son was a terrorist and said he was manipulated by the FBI. Mateo's father, Paul Ventura, who is on the left of Mateo in this cell phone photo, told The Intercept, quote, He was born prematurely. He had brain development issues. I had the school do a neurosurgery evaluation on him, and they said his brain was underdeveloped. He was suffering endless bullying at school with other kids taking food off his plate, tripping him in the hallway, humiliating him, laughing at him. Intercept reporter Murtaza Hussein joins us now to discuss this story. Thank you so much for being with us.
Okay, so you guys kind of get the gist of it. I think I have more questions than anything because, like, what websites was this kid on, or chat rooms, or Reddit subreddits, or whatever? What was he even in for an FBI agent to be like, we're gonna get this one right here?
That's true, right?
One of my first thoughts. I'm like, this, because this is so weird.
Yeah, and it's so unethical. Oh my gosh, not that the government hasn't had a long history of being unethical. Right. It's just like, wow, it has become so depraved. I just don't even know what to think about this.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy. And then it's so weird because they do this for 2 years. And then I think at some point the kid did tell his dad, but they still, I think when he told his dad, they didn't believe the dad or something. And they still went through with having the kid do like weird financing through gift cards and stuff, which is such a small amount to even begin with. So to even bust him as like a terrorist financier is pretty insane. Because it's like, what were you expecting to get talking to a child? It's like you basically coerced a child into doing stuff for you.
Yeah, and I don't get the motivation. Like, I think the guy goes on to talk about how, like, somebody, the agent, had probably spent some time on this and then was motivated by like, oh, well, I'll get an accolade or, a headline, whoop-de-doo. But for them, that was enough of a motivation to continue the behavior, to continue the investigation. I don't know. I don't even understand like the thought process behind why you would be doing this as an agent. I don't get that.
I don't get it either. I think it's weird because once again, you're grooming the kid to do this. So that would be like me if I randomly hopped in pardon me, y'all, I'm sick right now, so y'all gonna have to deal with the coughing, but that would be like me hopping in Fortnite, telling some kids some random stuff, and then we just in voice chat all the time, and I'd be like, yeah, send me some gift cards to this or that. It's a kid. They don't know what they're doing. Especially we're talking about like a 16-year-old that's mentally disabled. They really don't know what they're doing. I can't treat them the same way I would treat them a regular 16-year-old that should know better. So,
right.
I don't know. The government weird for this.
Very.
But then again, always weird because this ain't the first time they done did this and framed somebody and all this other nonsense, because you see how they going after Christians and Catholics now. So
this is so true.
So shouldn't be shocked that they're going after our kids now. Just I think as a parent, maybe just start monitoring what your kids are doing a little more, because that's the one thing I don't know. I don't know how they got the kid. I don't know what type of rooms he was in for the FBI to even target him out of all people in the world.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, but this is our tax dollars, y'all. This is what our tax dollars are going to.
Insane.
You got
Planned Parenthood and FBI entrapment.
And CIA entrapment and IRS nonsense and every 3-letter acronym you could think of that goes with all of that.
God bless America. It's craziness.
All right, y'all. Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. I don't even know what the question should be on this. Just how do y'all feel? We're gonna keep it so simple. How do y'all feel about the FBI grooming this disabled 16-year-old and then 2 years later said, gotcha?
It's so absurd.
Let us know in the comment section down below and we might pick your comment for next week's episode. All right, y'all. So that was another episode of So. This is the World Christian Podcast. Thank you for hanging out with us. Once again, I am your host, Michelle. This is your other host, Jasmine. Thank you for hanging out with us for this past hour. As usual, now that the video is over, go over and head over to her channel. It's called Bold Reflections. Watch a couple of her videos, and then when you're done, head over to my channel. It's called It's Your Girl Sang. Watch some live streams, some videos, catch up on everything, and we'll see you guys next time.